Hi, this is Kyle from Old River Creative, and today is the first of a multi-part video series in which we're going to be showing you how to design and build an excellent user experience in your SharePoint site, whether it be an intranet or a website. And in order to demonstrate this, we've created a fictitious company called the Woodstock Pie Company. You can see their logo we created up here on the screen. The Woodstock Pie Company, we created that because our office is actually located in a little town called Woodstock, Virginia. So we're going to be creating a public-facing website for this company using SharePoint 2013. And I'm going to kind of show you this process from the very beginning, from the ideation all the way through design, user experience planning, and then actually building it out inside of the SharePoint site itself. And in order to demonstrate all that, we're going to be using this fictitious company. We're going to create fictitious content for them, and like I said, in this case, we're going to be doing a website, but this process could just as easily be applied to a company intranet as well. Either way works just fine there. So I'm going to leave the logo here. We'll come back to this, but I'm actually going to switch over, and the way we're going to start this, generally it starts a little bit different when we do these projects because obviously when you have a real company, there's real people involved, and you need to talk to them and figure out who their organization is. But in this case, the pie company is fake, something that we made up. So in this case, all the people that we talk to, it's all kind of just in our heads. So in this case, we can start really quickly, really easily, and we're going to jump right into the wireframe phase of the project. And that's a really important phase. Essentially what we're going to be doing in wireframes is we're going to be trying things out. We're going to create a black and white blueprint of what we want our SharePoint site and our content to look like. And by doing this, this allows us to create a point of discussion in which we can all look at this document. It's very visual in nature, and we can try to figure out what is the best way to tackle this content, what's the best way to organize it and present it on the screen. This is often accompanied by sitemaps, which are another document that are really useful to be able to determine the hierarchy of your website content. But again, in this case, because it's a fictitious company, we're just going to kind of slap together a wireframe to show what this fictitious company might have on their website. So that being said, I'm using a tool. You'll see the browser here. I'm using a tool called Quark Tools. This is actually something that we created here at Old River Creative because we love wireframes so much that we created our own tool just to do them. So you can check this out. It's just quarktools.com/wires if you want to create your own wireframes using this tool. So it's pretty easy to get started. I'm going to give it a project name here. We'll call it Woodstock Pie Company. It's a private project, and we're going to leave all the default options here, private and web. Really, this doesn't do much, just lets you kind of customize the way you create your project. So let's hit Create Project here, and you see I created that project. We can go ahead and open it, and this is what the Wires application looks like in Quark Tools. So you can see here, you start with this blank canvas, and we can essentially just do whatever we want here. And Wires is a drawing application. It's essentially what it boils down to. So the way that you draw things in Wires is you basically just go up to this little plus icon up here. You see there it says New Widget. And you click on that, and then you can add widgets. The widgets might be a rectangle or an icon or a line or something like that. And essentially you're just dragging and dropping elements on this canvas to create an image or a black and white blueprint of what this website is going to look like. So in this case, I know it's a public-facing website, so the first thing I'm going to add here is a really prominent area to put the logo. So I'm adding a placeholder widget. We'll go ahead and resize that up and kind of center it in the canvas there. We're going to have a centered logo on the page. I'm also going to add a menu widget. And what a menu widget does is it allows me to create a menu of items that I can choose from. So you see by default the menu is actually vertical. See how it says link 1, link 2, link 3. I can actually, when I have it selected, I can go over here on the right and just choose horizontal, and it actually changes the orientation of those menu items for me. So maybe I want my menu to span all the way across the page here. And maybe we'll put it right under the logo there. And I actually have 4 items that I'm going to want to put into this navigation menu. The first one's going to be bakery. It's all about the things that we bake at the Woodstock Pie Company. And then we have the deli. It's another component of the business. We have the catering menu. and then I'm going to add a new one here on the bottom, the all-important about, or about us. So just by adding those items, you can kind of see here it drops them in, just puts a sort of a boxy look around that menu. Again, the whole point of these wireframes is not for it to be this beautiful document that is a design-friendly document. The point of this is to very quickly draft something, and let's put ideas out there and make them tactile and create something that the whole project team can look at and discuss. And the best part about this process is if you think you have a really great idea at the beginning of a project and you go and you build that idea and you build on it and you develop in your SharePoint site, realizing that you want to change something or introduce a change or try something different, it's going to be very difficult the further along in the project you get. If you try out those ideas now, it gives you a chance to sort of field them, see how they work, see if you come up with new ideas while you're thinking about this and putting it out there and making it visual. It gives you a chance to make those changes when those changes are really affordable. Because at this point, we haven't invested a ton of time in the way this menu appears here. So obviously, if we want to start to change the order of things, if we want to, maybe move the menu to the top or whatever, it's going to be a lot easier in this wireframe document than it's going to be once it's in SharePoint. So it's always a great idea to do this exploration step, this discovery step of your projects. That being said, I'm actually going to shrink this down just a little bit because I also want to add a way to open our search menu. The search is going to be an important feature. So I think over here on the right, we'll just put search icon. So you see I can change that to a search icon. And we'll just have that over on the right. If I want to put that into a rectangle, I can do that. So it looks like it's part of the menu. It's got the same dimensions. And when you have something like this where you have layering in wires, you can just go up to the stack menu. And I can see I have that rectangle selected, so let's send it to the bottom. There's also keyboard shortcuts if you're savvy with the keyboard. So we have our top navigation menu. That's all set up. Let's go ahead and add the next piece of content, which is going to be another placeholder, just like our logo. I'm going to put placeholders are just kind of a nice, easy way to put a big box of something that might fill that area on your page. So in this case, we're going to have kind of a big featured image on our home page of this Woodstock Pie Company website. So in this case, I'm going to add this placeholder. We're going to make it fairly big. It's going to be kind of a big image. And then we're also going to add a text widget on top of that. Because what I want to be able to do on the home page here is I want to do things like feature our latest items, sort of give an area where the website content authors can provide announcements and news and feature the latest innovations and things like that that might be in the products that we make. So in this case, I'm just going to put, let's make up some content here. We'll actually type over here on the right, and we'll say delicious new recipes. And this is just a rich text editor, so really you can put whatever you want here. To save you the boredom of watching me type in text and have to make it all up, I'm just going to go to this site. This is lipsum.com, and what you can do here is just get filler text. I generally don't recommend using filler text when you're doing wireframes and creative designs. It's always best to have real content. But in this case, it's kind of just an example. We're just doing an exercise, if you will, and this company doesn't really exist, so there is no content. So in a pinch, you can use this lorem ipsum text as kind of filler content. And you see when I paste that in here, it's just it's kind of Latin. If you look at the translation of that, it's actually fairly morbid. But it's just this filler text that's been used for a really long time in design work to be able to just fill space, and it gives you sort of a sense for what a paragraph might look like if you were to place it there. I'm going to also add a little bit of style to this so that we have kind of a heading followed by that text. And then I'm going to move this up just a little bit, and I'm going to add a call to action or a button which we want users to sort of, once they read this text and they read the paragraph and they want to take action on that, this call to action button will basically allow them to give them an avenue through which they can navigate somewhere else to the target, where we want to send them to. So in this case, the button might say, learn more, or purchase recipe or purchase items or whatever it may be. You just want a call to action to give users a way to take action when you kind of try to call their attention to that area. The last thing I'm going to do to this featured image area is I'm going to add a couple of more icons because I want this to be something where we can add multiple. So I'm going to add just 2 icons here. I'll add one to the right and one to the left. And let me move those so they're about centered along the image there. I think that's about right. So we can drag and move these over just a little bit too to give a little more space. So you see here I'm just adding a left and a right arrow, and that's just to kind of indicate that users can pan or scroll across multiple items. We could even add an indicator underneath here. You'll see this a lot on websites where maybe you have circles that appear at the bottom of the image. We could make little tiny circles here. If I just copy and paste these, you can kind of see what I'm getting at. So maybe there's 3 items, so you have 3 circles, and if you're viewing the second item, you just choose the closed circle there. Okay, and now that our featured image area is all complete, we'll just scroll down a little bit here and let's add some additional content. So you can see here we're just kind of creating 2 little items there. If you're running out of room and wires, you can grab this little tab and just pull it down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a rectangle, and we're going to build out our site footer. I'm also going to add over on the right here, I think on pretty much any public-facing website, it's pretty important to use social media. So there's our footer. So as you can see very quickly, we can draft a wireframe. If we go back up to the top, you'll see we just kind of put together the home page here. But again, this is meant to be something that is revised. It's something that you share with people, you get feedback on, and you make changes to it. That's kind of the whole point of the wireframes, is to very quickly draft an idea, see if you like it, see if you think of new things, you want to change it, and then you show it to clients, you have a discussion, everybody talks about it, shares their ideas, and you come back and revise this based on that discussion. So in this case, maybe I decide that from the bakery, from the deli, it's getting into the content a little bit too quickly. So maybe we'll say, based on our discussion, we decided to move this down. Let's move that down just a little bit. We'll add kind of a line in here to separate that content from what we're going to add above. And maybe what we need is just kind of a little intro area to kind of give people a sense for, okay, who are you and what is it that you do. And now we're done with the home page. So wireframes are great for drafting this and putting this together, but one thing that is even better about these wireframes is we can actually make this a clickable prototype. That's another one of the things that we kind of built into this Wires application, is that once you have your page up, if we want to show what it would look like if somebody were to click on bakery or click on deli or click on one of the links here, we can actually create multiple pages here and tie them all together using links, just like a real website. So that prototype functionality is very useful to start to get a feel for what this is going to look and function like when we actually start to build this. So in this case, what I'm going to do, what I typically do is, you're probably going to have the same header and footer on every page. So I'm just going to copy everything on the page here. You can do that using Select All or Command A, and then just copy or Command C. But any way you do it, I'm just copying the entire contents of the page. I'm going to come over here on the right, and you see that little blue plus arrow there. This is the new page button, and I'm going to create a page called, let's call it, what's one of the links that we had on here? Pies. So create that page. It creates a new blank page. You can actually see the page now shows up over here on the right under the project map. So this kind of gives you a bird's eye view of all the pages that you've created. And if we paste or Command V, it's actually going to paste all of that home page content right onto the page for me. And we do actually have to resize our canvas a little bit to make sure we have room for everything. Now, we don't want to repeat everything on the home page. So I'm actually going to select all of these items in the center here and delete those. And then that way all that we're left with is the header at the top and the footer at the bottom, and then we have a big blank area where we can put our interior page content. So we have our listing, pictures and descriptions and prices listed for each one. And now what we can actually do is we can wire this together with the home page. So what I usually do here is typically what I'll do is, for instance, if we want to go to that pies page from here, if we want to be able that to be a link, what you can do is just select this text widget. You can select the text over on the right, and you can click on this little hyperlink button. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to actually select one of your pages that you've already built. So in this case, I'm going to select pies, and I'll hit OK. And you'll see it turns that text blue. So when you're editing, you won't be able to click on that, because when you're editing, you need to be able to click and resize and drag and drop and move things around. But if you want to test this from a prototype point of view, you can actually come up and lock the widgets, so that this little block icon at the top, and now our wireframe becomes a clickable prototype. So I can actually click on pies, and it sends me to that other page. So again, we can kind of test our prototype and really start to see how everything works. The same thing with the delicious new recipes. Maybe these are pie recipes. We can link this Learn More call to action by selecting a page over here on the right. It'll actually turn that blue, and you can see you can actually start to link all of these things together, which becomes very, very handy. So, we can continue to do this. I could build out an About page and link that. I could build out, additional pages and do that. But in this case, what I do actually want to do, because navigation is such an important piece of any website design, I do want to show how you can navigate to that same page that we just built using the top navigation menu. And generally what I do when I do this is, what you can do is you can create a new page, and maybe you can call this Bakery Menu Open. And you can paste in that header. I'm going to switch to a menu widget, and we'll just use a vertical menu beneath Bakery to kind of show what the different options are. So if I remember correctly, the options under Bakery were pies, cakes, scones, and pastries. And anytime you use one of these widgets, or a text widget or a menu widget, you always have the ability to link the items that you're placing in there. So if I want to link that pies link there, I can click on the little link icon and select pies. And again, you actually see it turns blue there. So you can actually, you're able to click on that. We can also add, maybe if we want the ability to close this menu, maybe we can add an X icon here over to the right, or maybe the X icon should go on the menu itself to show that we can close that, and then we can actually link that back to the home page. And now what you'll see what we just did here, if we add a link to that new page from here, and we go in and we test this, what we can now do, what we just did was I can click on Bakery. It kind of shows me that open menu. I can click on pies and actually visit that page. So it's kind of like we built a functioning navigation menu. If you want it to be functional from this other page that you built here, you'll probably want to link that as well to our menu open page. So again, we can now click on this. It pops open. We can click on pies. Or if we click on this and we click on the X, we actually close that menu and we go back to the home page. So you can kind of show in wires by creating multiple pages. You can show interaction. You can show what happens when you click on things, which is kind of a handy feature to be able to do. Another interaction that I think it's important to show in this case is let's show what happens when you click on that search icon. Search is going to be an important thing for people to utilize on the site. So again, what we'll do is just like we did with the Bakery Menu Open page, we'll create a page called Search Open. We'll paste our header content here. And what I'll do is I'll change the search icon, or sorry, no, we won't change the search icon. First, we're going to add a text box, which you can add using the Forms widget. So you see, basically add a text box here. Let's make that a little bit bigger to kind of cover up our menu items. And then in SharePoint, the default prompt text there is going to be search the site, so I'll just add that to kind of show that that's what we're doing. And then I will also add, let's choose a select menu, because in SharePoint you can actually click on the down arrow and select from different, sort of search scopes, if you will. And then finally, we will change this icon to an X to show that you could close that search once it's open. So this will actually link back to the home page when you click on that X. And then our search icon on the home page will link to the search open page that we just created. And again, just like the bakery menu, what we just did was we created and we wired it up so that when I click on the search icon, it kind of pops open. You can see you get the search menu showing over here on the right. And if I decide I don't want to search, I can click on the X and I go back to the home page, showing me that interaction. Even though that might not actually be on two separate pages when we actually build this, it's a good way to just get people, give people a sense when you're sharing this with people for how that functionality is going to work. That being said, the last thing we'll do on this wireframe, we could continue to build out all these pages and make a fully functional prototype, but I think you get the point of what we're trying to do. You could continue this. You could sort of flesh out every page as you want to. But in this case, I think we kind of identified the most important pieces of our interface and the way that we're going to design and build this. And the last thing I want to do, and another important part of this process, is let's show what this looks like when we actually resize this down to smaller viewports. You'll see the size that we chose when we created this project is sort of a desktop size. This is, basically 1,000 pixels wide, 980 pixels or something like that wide, which is the typical width of a website at a desktop resolution or sometimes a tablet resolution, depending on the tablet. And what we typically like to do is when you're doing these wireframes, you basically do the exact same wireframe, but you do it at multiple sizes to show how that content is going to adapt to or respond to different device screens. And that's a technique called responsive web design, which you may be familiar with already. It's a technique that we really like here at Old River Creative. We love to do it, and SharePoint can do it. A lot of people may think that SharePoint is not a mobile-friendly platform. In some cases, that is true. But also, in a lot of cases, you can work around the unmobile-friendly things about SharePoint and make it work really, really well on a mobile device. So in order to do that, what we'll do is we'll just take, and I don't have to create a mobile version of every page, but I'm going to take the contents of the home page, and we'll create a new page, and we'll just call it Home Page Smartphone to kind of show what the home page is going to look like on a smartphone. And we're going to take all the same content, which I just pasted in here, and we're just going to kind of adapt it so that it's more friendly for a mobile device. So to get a sense for what your mobile device is going to look like and how much room you have, typically a smartphone is going to have somewhere between 320 and 380 pixels in width. So you can kind of use any of those widths as a starting point. I'm going to use 320 because I kind of like to have the smallest available room that I'm going to have, because that gives you a better, a little more restrictive on what you can do, and you're never going to have any instances where you need to go smaller than 320 pixels wide. So it's kind of a nice place to start. And you see here, obviously, something's got to change because all of this content, there's no way it's all going to fit into that tiny little width based on where it was before. So the logo, I think the first thing we'll do is just resize that down so it's much, much smaller. The logo might be, maybe this big on a mobile screen. Maybe we'll add, instead of a horizontal menu like we have here, maybe we'll just get rid of that and we'll add an icon to actually open the menu. There's actually a menu icon built into wires here. So maybe when people click on this icon over on the right, the navigation menu actually slides out or something like that. And that's very typical of a lot of these mobile designs you'll see. we'll actually have a header at the top with a menu button on the right, and that button, when you click on it, will actually allow you to open that menu. So I'm just going to add a little divider here to kind of make it look more like a button. So we have our logo and our menu button over here. We'll just say that the search may appear inside of that menu, so maybe when you click on menu, the search box is right at the top, so we can delete that to save room. And then our whole featured image area, we can just take this whole image and we'll resize it down and also resize it up, because there's going to be a lot less room here. We'll just basically take that same image, resize it. We will leave, we probably don't need the arrows because mobile users can pan and swipe using gestures in that case. So I'm going to get rid of those arrows, and we'll put the text in this case beneath the image. And then we'll even take that text and resize it down a little bit for those mobile users. Maybe not quite so much. There we go. And we'll have that same learn more. And then the navigation, we can delete that on mobile as well. So you're left with just like a really simple way to display that content, and then users will be able to swipe left and right to get through that. And we probably want to add a line here just to kind of indicate the edge of that swiping area, that this is a separate element than what comes below. So you can sort of see what we're doing here. We're essentially just resizing that same content down, adapting a little bit, thinking about that touch functionality versus a mouse pointer, always very important to keep in mind that users could be on a touch screen, which doesn't have any concept of hover and other sorts of things that are different on a mouse and keyboard. We'll take our intro area, we'll resize that down quite a bit. We'll pull up our other content that was down below here. And in a lot of cases on mobile, what you may want to do is just take content that you had in multiple columns. So for instance, we had 2 columns here, and just stack them. You know, that's a lot of times the easiest way to adapt content to mobile screens is to just take content and then start to adapt it so it fits. And again, we'll resize this text down a little bit to match. Bump that down just a little bit, and then finally we'll take our footer area as the last piece, and we'll take this and move it up. We'll take the social stuff and move that down below here, and then we'll finally take our footer rectangle layer and we'll place that behind all this other content, and maybe we even take these icons and center them, and center this text as well on the mobile screen to make it look a little more uniform. Okay, and there we go. Now we have a smartphone view of that same home page. And you would probably want to continue to do this to build out the smartphone view of maybe a couple of pages. You'd probably want to create a page to show what the menu looks like when it's open, what the maybe one of those interior pages look like when you click on those. So for instance, if we were to click on pies, we could continue to build these wireframes for all of those different pages that are going to be in our site. So definitely a very useful thing that you can utilize whenever you're designing and planning for mobile on your SharePoint site. So that being said, we'll say that at this point our wireframe is complete. Again, you in a project process, you would take this, you would discuss it, you would do revisions like we did to the intro area of the page here. You would continue to work with this and kind of use this as a working document to plan all of the details that are going to go into your SharePoint site. It's a really useful exercise, a really useful way to get started and to start thinking about how you're going to be building the way that your content is going to appear on the screen. So in our next tutorial, what we're going to be doing in the next video in the series is we're going to take this wireframe and we're actually going to start building this and designing it inside of Photoshop in preparation for the implementation into SharePoint. So stay tuned for the next video in the series. You can check our website for all the updates, and we'll continue to add to this Woodstock Pie Company project as we continue and go through and build this out from start to finish inside of our SharePoint environment. And if you need help on any of your SharePoint projects, Old River Creative would be happy to help. You can visit at any time oldrivercreative.com/SharePoint to learn more.